Here are the key things you need to know about the Representations and Images essay. But don't just watch this video. You need to read through the requirements on the essay page and the requirements for all papers on the Essay Musts tab. For the Images essay, you have two choices, but the basic idea is the same. For this essay, you need to look at how people and cultures of the ancient world are depicted in a work of creative expression, and talk about your reactions to that work and what you think the creator was trying to say about that time and place. The purpose of art is to provoke new thoughts and reactions in its audience about a subject. So, what is the creator trying to get you to think about the people and culture he or she is depicting? There are two options for this essay. For the first option, you compare two ancient works of art that are on display in a museum. When the museums are open, this is done in person. With the museums closed, you need to browse the collections of websites for museums that hold ancient art collections. There are two criteria you must use for choosing the artworks you're going to write about. First, you need to pick two works from the ancient era that are from different places or from the same place at different times and different periods. So either different places in the ancient world or different periods from the same place. Second, the two artworks must depict the same subject. So, two little girls, two love goddesses, two warriors. The goal is for your essay to talk about how these two ancient artists saw the same idea as a product of their cultures, how they saw the same idea in similar and different ways. What do these similarities and differences tell us about the cultures that produced these two artists? How these two artists saw girly innocence, or the divine role in love and fertility, or the ideal attributes of a warrior. So you use these two different points of view on the same idea to talk about the cultures these artists came from, and the values and commonalities and differences of their beliefs. For the second option, you choose a film or a couple episodes of a TV series that's about people or events of the ancient world. Then compare the story and the depictions in the film or the show with the ancient primary source or source material that told of the same people or events. Now, this part is critically important. The purpose of this is not to fact-check the film against the primary sources. I don't want you to be writing an essay, okay, the film got it wrong, here's what really happened, because we don't know what really happened. We have a primary source, and the primary source, as you know from my other videos, the primary source has its own bias and its own agenda. It has what it is trying to say about these events. The point here is for you to compare the agenda of the filmmakers with the agenda of the primary source writer. What did these two different creators want you to think about these ancient individuals and cultures? How are they using the events in the film to drive home what they want you to believe about the ancient people being depicted? Both the filmmakers and the author, the primary source, are trying to convince you of something in relation to what's being shown here. And your job is to talk about what it is these creators are trying to say, how they're using these events to get across what they're trying to say. So, for example, the movie 300 is a film about a 300-man contingent of the Spartan army trying to hold off a massive Persian invasion at the Battle of Thermopylae, which is 480 BCE. We have a primary source for these events. The Athenian historian Herodotus, in his histories, wrote about the Battle of Thermopylae in Book 7 of the histories, and this is written only decades later. Now, the film is very stylized and makes very pointed depictions of Spartans, Persians, the individuals and choices here involved. Zack Snyder and his collaborators wanted you to believe certain things about Spartans, Greeks, Persians, about warriors and this war and wars in general. All this is very much on the surface and derives in part from the source material graphic novel, also called 300. But the point is, the filmmakers are their agenda is very much on their sleeve. The same is true of Herodotus. Nothing was ever written for no reason. And Herodotus had his own agenda. He had something to say about Spartans, and Persians, and wars and warriors. Your job is to talk about how the film and the primary source use the same events and individuals to emphasize what they think about is important about the people and cultures being depicted, what they want you to believe. You write about both agendas and discuss how and why these events are being used to talk about beliefs, values, expectations regarding cultures of the ancient world. Whatever option you chose, your plan of attack should be as follows. Choose 3 aspects that your works have in common and compare your reactions to the 2 works in relation to each aspect and what you think the works are trying to tell us. For the museum option, choose 3 things about each work. The hair, the dress, the facial expression, the sense of stiffness or fluidity, things they may be holding or wearing, realism or abstractness, level of detail, and so on. For each of these aspects, describe and react to the evidence you see from work 1. Do the same for what you see from work 2, and then discuss what you think what you're observing is telling us about the idea being depicted as understood by the times and places of these 2 artists. Then move on to the second aspect, then the third, so that you can draw conclusions about the values and cultures of the 2 artists as you've seen them in these works. Be specific, detailed, and analytical. For the film option, choose 3 moments from the film or depictions of a character that are also present in the primary source. And for each moment or individual, compare what the film is trying to say about it with what the writer of the primary source wants you to think. Then move on to the second and the third, so that you can draw conclusions about how a particular set of ancient events is being used by the filmmakers, the ancient writer, to emphasize their own beliefs and values regarding the ancient world. Again, be specific, detailed, and analytical. This essay is subjective and reactive, but your process should still be, okay, I'm seeing this. This is what this suggests to me. And this is borne out by these other things I've also observed. So be subjective, be reactive, but still be analytical and draw conclusions about what all of your observations are telling you. For every essay, you must make sure you conform to the requirements for all papers. The requirements are listed on the website: cover sheets, formatting, structure, that kind of thing. The main thing I need to say here is in relation to citations. The museum option does not require footnotes, but you do need to have a separate works discussed page with the images of the works you wrote about and descriptions of where and when each work came from. For the film option, you don't need to use footnotes for the film, but you must footnote the primary source. And this is not just, direct quotes from it. Every time you use evidence from a source, you need to provide a citation In this case, that means if you're describing events in the primary source, if you are paraphrasing something that occurs there, not just direct quotes, but anytime you are pulling something from a primary source, or you need to provide a citation. And in the Works Discussed page, you need to provide a bibliographic listing for where you got that from, where that primary source came from, what actual book or whatever, along with the info for the film you chose. So again, you need to review the specifics of the assignment, not just what I told you in this video. The specifics of the assignment on the essays page, and the requirements for all papers on the essay must page. Any questions, please email me, and good luck.